They didn't laugh out loud. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they exchanged looks, the kind that said this is a waste of time, the kind that said she shouldn't even be here. 18 years old. Slim frame. Dust smudge boots that still looked too new. A rifle nearly as long as her body resting against the wall beside her. Her name badge read Alia Cross, but no one bothered reading in the operations room of Forward Base Kestrel. Seasoned officers stood around a glowing digital map. Red markers blinked slowly, enemy patrols. Blue markers were fewer. Too few that a hostage convoy had been ambushed 6 hours earlier. Communications lost. One squad presumed captured. Among them, a field medic and a junior intelligence officer carrying encrypted data that could compromise multiple operations if extracted. Rescue attempts had already been discussed and dismissed. Terrain's too hot, one commander muttered. Enemy numbers triple ours, another added. Night extraction impossible. Alia stepped forward. I can't get to them, she said calmly. Silence followed. Not shocked silence. Worse, dismissive silence. Colonel Harrow finally looked at her. He'd seen combat longer than she'd been alive. His face was carved from fatigue and skepticism. You're asking for solo insertion? He asked. Yes, sir. With one rifle. Yes, sir. And no backup. Yes, sir. Someone exhaled sharply. Another officer shook his head. You're a trainee sniper, Harrow said. Barely out of academy. Alia didn't argue that. She didn't say she graduated top of her class. Didn't mention the long-range record she'd broken quietly or the psychological evaluations that marked her as abnormally focused under pressure. Instead, she said something else. I grew up there. That made Harrow pause. The ridge north of the canyon, she continued, pointing at the map. My father hunted there before the border collapsed. The wind patterns change every 40 seconds after sunset. The rocks echo shots upward, not outward. A major scoffed. This isn't a survival story, kid. It's war. Alia met his eyes. I know. She reached in her pocket and placed something on the table. A folded piece of fabric. Faded, torn to squad insignia. Recovered from the convoy wreckage earlier that morning. I was the one who found this, she said. I followed their tracks 2 kilometers before your drones picked them up. They're alive. They're being moved at dawn. Harrow stared at the insignia, then back at her. How many shots? He asked quietly. Alia didn't hesitate. 1. That did it. Someone laughed, short, incredulous. 1 shot doesn't win wars, the major said. No, Alia replied. But it opens doors. The room fell quiet again. Harrow rubbed his jaw, then turned away, staring at the map as if trying to see something others couldn't. Even if you reach them, he said, even if you take out a guard. What then? You'll be surrounded. Alia's voice dropped. I won't miss. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, Harrow turned back. You have until sunrise, he said. If you're not back by then, we scrub your existence from the logs. Alia nodded. That was enough. She moved through the terrain like she belonged to it. Night swallowed her whole as she climbed, each step deliberate, silent. The rifle on her back was customized, lighter stock, extended barrel, suppressor tuned by her own hands. She trusted it more than most people. The wind whispered just like she remembered. Every 40 seconds, she timed her breaths with it. Below her, enemy lights flickered in the canyon. Vehículos, armed patrols, and somewhere in the center, 3 heat signatures bound together. Hostages, she settled into position atop a jagged outcrop, belly pressed to cold stone. The scope came alive, painting the night in ghostly clarity. She watched and waited. Patience wasn't something Alia learned. It was something she'd survived with. Her finger rested outside the trigger guard. Heart steady, mind empty. A guard stepped into view. Rifle slung carelessly, laughing at something she couldn't hear. She tracked his movement, not his body, but the space where he would be. Wind shift 38 seconds 39. She exhaled, pulled. The suppressed crack was swallowed by the canyon. The guard dropped without a sound, collapsing backward into shadow, and alarm, and chaos. Just absence. Alia was already moving, down the slope, through rocks, timing her steps between patrol passes. She reached the perimeter just as the second guard turned his head. Too late. She struck fast, silent, precise. Within minutes, she was inside the holding area. The hostages looked up in disbelief. One of them whispered, "They sent a kid?" Alia cut their restraints. "They sent a sniper," she replied. Gunfire erupted outside. Shouts, searchlights. She froze. This wasn't supposed to happen. Her radio crackled to life. "Alia." Harrow's voice cut through. "Enemy reinforcements just changed route. You're about to be boxed in." Alia scanned the canyon, mind racing. "1 chance, 1 shot." She climbed. Higher than logic. Higher than safety. The extraction point was impossible. Unless she reached the ridge peak as enemy vehicles roared into view below. She set the rifle down, adjusted elevation beyond standard limits. Her breath slowed. Wind cycle. She aimed, not at a man, but at a fuel coupling on the lead vehicle. Distance, extreme. "Margin for error, 0. Harrow shouted into the radio. "Don't take the shot." Alia whispered, almost to herself. "I already did." She fired. The explosion lit the canyon like dawn. Vehicles scattered. Panic erupted. Smoke swallowed the road. Alia slid down the ridge toward the extraction flare she'd placed earlier. Helicopter blades thundered above. She boarded with the hostages. Harrow stared at her, speechless. The major who laughed earlier couldn't meet her eyes. Alia didn't smile. She just sat down, rifle across her knees, hands finally trembling now that it was over. As the base came into view, Harrow leaned toward her. "You were right," he said quietly. "1 shot." Alia looked out the window. "1 chance," she corrected. The helicopter touched down hard, skids scraping frozen dirt as if the earth itself resisted letting them go. The rotors kept screaming, whipping sand and debris into a violent halo. Medics rushed in before the engines even slowed, their movements sharp, trained, urgent. "Easy, easy, watch the leg. Pressure here, don't let go." Mara Vale didn't move from the ramp at first. She stood there, half-turned toward the desert they'd escaped, rifle still hanging from her shoulder, as if expecting the night to reach up and drag them back. Only when the last wounded SEAL was lifted onto a stretcher did she step down. Her boots hit the ground. Solid. Real. They were out. For the first time since the order came down, her chest loosened enough for a full breath. It came out shaky. Captain Elias Grant jumped down behind her, helmet under his arm, face streaked with sweat and dust. "Base commander's already asking questions," he said quietly. "He wants you in a debrief as soon as medical clears you." Mara nodded. "Figures." Grant studied her, eyes lingering on the blood dried along her sleeves. "You good?" She looked at her hands, flexed them. They shook slightly. "I will be." He gave a short nod. "For what it's worth, you did the right thing." Mara didn't answer. She watched as the stretchers disappeared into the medical tent. 11 men. Alive. That was the only measure that mattered. Inside the tent, the smell of antiseptic replaced smoke and dust. Christmas music played softly from an old radio near the supply table. Somehow cheerful, somehow cruel. A medic tried to guide Mara to a cot. "Lieutenant, you need to—" "I'm fine," Mara said, sharper than intended. The medic hesitated, then nodded. He'd seen that look before. The look of someone still holding the line inside their head. She paced instead, boots echoing softly. Every few steps, someone called out a name she recognized. Every time, her shoulders tensed until she heard the answer. Stable. Breathing on his own. Surgery in 10. Each word was a weight lifted. Chief Rowan Hale lay on a bed near the back, leg immobilized, face gray but alert. When he saw her, he grinned, teeth white against his beard. "Well, I'll be damned," he rasped. "You look like hell." Mara let out a breath that almost became a laugh. She stepped closer. "You're supposed to be unconscious." "Didn't want to miss Christmas," he said. "Figured I owed you that." She swallowed, nodding. "You scare me back there." "Yeah," he admitted softly. "Me too." They sat in silence for a moment, the hum of medical equipment filling the space. "You know," Hale said, eyes fixed on the ceiling, "I've been doing this a long time. Seen good officers, great ones, and a lot who talk about the code like it's a slogan. He turned his head to look at her. Tonight, you lived it. Mara shook her head. I just did my job. Ha dissimilate faintly. No, you did more, and you're going to pay for it. She didn't deny that. The debrief room was cold and bright, intentionally uncomfortable. Two flags stood in opposite corners. A digital clock on the wall ticked loudly. Each second an accusation point. Three officers waited when Mara entered. No introductions. No smiles. Lieutenant Mara Vale, the center officer said. Seat. She did. Let's be clear, another began. You were given a direct order to hold position. Yes, sir. You disobeyed. Yes, sir. You initiated unauthorized movement, contacted off-grid assets, and coordinated an extraction that had been explicitly denied. Yes, sir. The first officer leaned forward. Why? Mara met his gaze without hesitation. Because 11 SEALs were going to die. Silence followed. Acceptable losses are part of war, the officer said flatly. Not abandoned ones, Mara replied. A sharp intake of breath came from the third officer. The first's jaw tightened. You're not here to debate doctrine, he said. You're here to explain your actions. I am, she said calmly, and I stand by them. They exchanged looks. Captain Grant also defied orders, the third officer said. At your request. Mara straightened. He responded to a distress call. That responsibility is mine. The first officer studied her for a long time. You understand that this could end your career. Yes, sir. And you'd still do it. Mara didn't hesitate. Yes, sir. Another long pause. Finally, the officer leaned back. Dismissed. For now. She stood, saluted, and turned to leave. As her hand reached the door, the third officer spoke. Lieutenant. She stopped. 11 families are celebrating Christmas today because of you. Mara nodded once. Then she walked out. Night fell again, softer this time. The base lights glowed warm against the dark. Somewhere, laughter drifted from a mess hall. Somewhere else, a man cried quietly into a phone. Mara stood alone near the perimeter fence, staring at the stars. She thought of her own family, of holidays spent apart, of the cost everyone paid in different ways. Footsteps approached. Captain Grant joined her, handing her a steaming cup of coffee. Figured you'd be out here, he said. Figured I'd need this, she replied, taking it. They stood in companionable silence. They grounded me, Grant said finally. Pending review. Mara's jaw tightened. I am sorry. He shrugged. Worth it. She glanced at him. You don't even know them. I know the code, he said simply. That a notification pinged on Mara's radio. She checked it. Medical update. All 11 alive. 2 critical, improving. 1 out of surgery. She closed her eyes, letting the cold air fill her lungs. Grant smiled. Merry Christmas, Lieutenant. Merry Christmas, she echoed. Morning came slowly. Pale light crept over the horizon, washing the base in gold. Christmas Day. Mara was summoned again, this time to a smaller office. Only one officer waited. Older, eyes tired, expression unreadable. Sit, he said. She did. I won't sugarcoat this, he began. What you did put lives at risk. Yes, sir. And it saved lives, he continued. 11 of them. He slid a file across the desk. Official report will state extraction was delayed due to enemy movement, but ultimately executed under emergent conditions. Mara looked up. You'll receive a formal reprimand, he said. An accommodation. She frowned. That doesn't make sense. He gave a thin smile. Neither does war. He paused. You won't be promoted this cycle. Understand. But, he added, you'll still be wearing the uniform. Relief washed through her, quiet but powerful. Thank you, sir. He nodded. Get some rest, Lieutenant. You earned it. Mara returned to the medical tent later that day. The mood had shifted. Lighter. Hopeful Point, one of the younger SEALs, barely awake, smiled weakly when he saw her. Hey, Lieutenant, he murmured. You really stole a helicopter for us? She smirked. Borrowed. He chuckled, then winced. Best Christmas ever. She laughed softly, then moved on. Chief Hale caught her sleeve as she passed. Promise me something, he said. What? Don't ever change. Mara squeezed his hand. I won't. Outside, snow began to fall. Unexpected, light, almost unreal. The desert received it quietly, as if honoring the moment. Mara watched the flakes melt on her gloves. Point 11 men would go home. Point 11 stories would be told. And one decision, made on Christmas Eve, would echo longer than any order ever could.